Welcome to Book Crew. We are on KCCC, 9:30 a.m. in New Mexico on Mondays at noon. We're available on YouTube under the Task Force Geek banner, and by the time that you hear this, we'll be on every major podcast aggregator out there. I am writer and marketing Jedi Dirk Hooper, and I'm joined as always by author and editor Beth A. Freely. How are you doing, Beth?
I'm doing good, Dirk. I heard you had an exciting day yesterday.
I did. I live in Oklahoma City, and we had up to 80 mile an hour gusts yesterday for the entire day, and it was insane. We had, I can't even tell you how many power bumps and how many times that the power went out, and it was crazy. We had fires going on all around us because of the low humidity and because of the wind speeds. So we had alerts going off, and I had to turn all of my electronic devices off because obviously they can't, the power bumps are the worst thing that you could. It's even worse than just having the power off. I mean, having it fluctuate on and off all the time. And everything that I do is, jacked into this computer that I'm broadcasting on. So I didn't get anything done yesterday.
I bet not. We had the winds in New Mexico. I am not sure what speeds they got up to, but not, the night before it was crazy. I mean, it kept me up. Dan,
they said that
right through it, but I was sitting there listening to it. The house, the house is vibrating, and I'm like, this is nuts.
They said that when I got up yesterday morning, the sky was yellow. Do you remember the movie Damnation Alley? It's kind of obscure. It reminded me of Damnation Alley. It was just this weird kind of yellow haze across
from
the
all
sky.
The dirt. Yep,
and they said that it was from New Mexico. It's New Mexico. So you sent us some dirt yesterday.
You're welcome.
That clouded the sky.
You're welcome. See, I sent you presents.
So anyway, it was really, really crazy. And I think that the one thing that maybe I learned from yesterday, as someone who, like you, and it seems like everyone that we interview on here are kind of go-getters and entrepreneurs, and they do their own thing. It means that most people who are doing this writing job, they do it every day. Yep. Like you never take a day off or do something else.
Nope.
I was forced yesterday to take the day off. And it was probably a good thing for me because I'd been kind of burning my candle at both ends. So I guess the moral of the story is don't be afraid to take a day off.
True.
Take a day off. It's okay, especially if crazy stuff is happening. Some days you're not going to get everything taken care of.
And sometimes I think the universe just steps in and says, "Hey, you need to slow down for a minute."
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that was me last weekend when I went to Farmington. I had a USB key, had it all prepped. Where did I leave it? In the computer here at the house. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yep.
All right. Are we ready to get on with our show?
Yes, let's do this.
All right.
I'm excited for today's guest for sure.
I am too. It's time for our feature interview. And that is with Sara Winokur, who is a geneticist, researcher, and author. Her historical fiction and cultural thrillers embody elements of DNA and forensic science, as she has a Ph.D. in molecular genetics. Her research helped identify mutations underlying muscular dystrophy, Huntington's disease, and dwarfism. As an ovarian cancer thriver, she says, Sara has a sense of gratitude, strength, and perspective that she extends to family, friends, work, and her writing. A mother of three, Sara Winokur resides with her husband and writes in Southern California. That is when she's not traveling the world in search of unique stories. Sara Winokur, welcome to Book Crew.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Always.
You said that you just got back from a trip. Where did you go to, if you don't mind?
I didn't go far, but
okay.
A couple of my kids live up in. I'm in Southern California. Two of my kids live near Sacramento. So speaking of winds, I flew back yesterday, and it was the craziest turbulence. It was very smooth, and there was a blind woman seated in the row in front of me, and she, before the turbulence, had gotten up to go to the restroom. And then the plane just started shaking and shaking and shaking. And the flight attendant's like, stay in your seats. If you're in the restroom, don't move. And this poor blind woman.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then the flight attendant came crawling up the aisle and like unlocked the.
Oh no.
Anyway, it was crazy.
Oh my god!
Everywhere is a little crazy, but wrong time to choose to go to the restroom.
Yeah,
maybe I just didn't pay attention, but it seems like when I was a kid, we didn't have as much turbulence. The last few times that I've flown, the turbulence has been crazy.
Yeah,
it's been like a ride.
I used to worry
Disneyland.
About it, but. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Not quite as fun, but yeah.
It's not as much fun at all. I could do without that whole thing.
Come on, man. The rides at Disneyland at least lift you up out of your seat. The day turbulence does that will be the day I stop flying altogether.
Yeah. But the planes can handle it. That's what I keep telling myself anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, I logically I know that it's much safer for me to be on a plane than it is for me to walk up and down the street. But it's still pretty, it's pretty scary.
I think the thing is you just don't have any control.
I've always
That's exactly it.
I've always said, if I'm meant to die in a fiery airplane crash, I will die in a fiery airplane crash. Nothing is going to stop it, even if that airplane crashes into the house where I'm sitting.
Yep.
Yeah. Just let it be quick. That's all.
Yeah.
Just
quick and easy.
Please.
Done. No suffering.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Well, Sara, tell us, give us kind of a brief overview of your author journey.
Okay, well, as you mentioned earlier in the intro, I had worked at the University of California for over 25 years doing genetic research, which I loved and was involved in identifying mutations that cause a lot of human genetic diseases. Mm-hmm. But however, I did then come down with ovarian cancer, which is not one of those that you really want to hear you have. So I took a step back and I got healthy. This was like more than 10 years ago. So I think I'm fine. I took a step back.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, they caught it pretty early, which is unusual. So at that time I thought, okay, well, I can go back to doing, research, or maybe I'll consider doing something else entirely different with, the rest of my life. And I decided to do that, to take on a new challenge. So at the time I had always wanted to write and certainly to write a novel. And I love reading historical fiction. I love reading all kinds of genres, but I do like to just learn something while I'm reading. So I thought I would throw little sprinkles of genetics in there so that, not in a heavy scientific boring way, but in a way that helps kind of give hints as to how to solve the mystery. So I know I'm rattling on here, but
no, you're fine.
No, you're fine. This is your time.
I happened to have an office when I was at the university next door to an Icelandic geneticist. And he told me, Iceland has a DNA database of most of its citizens. It's not a criminal database. They just have collected DNA.
Interesting.
Because it's only a population of about 350,000. Right. And until recently, they were all sort of related to one another.
Wow,
now there's more immigration. But it's particularly easy to tease out, and I won't go into detail here, but it's easy to tease out mutations that cause disease. So that's what they're doing with this database, which is a good thing. It's controversial in other ways. So this colleague of mine said, well, why don't you go to Iceland and we'll see if we can set up a tour of this company that has this database.
Wow.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then I went to Iceland just thinking, I'll just learn about the database. But then the country was so intriguing that I ended up spending quite a bit of time there. And I'm just so enamored by their culture and how, resilient they are against all odds. Certainly in the past, they're very technologically savvy now, of course.
Oh,
but
yeah.
to land on this place that's just, such a almost uninhabitable place back 1,000 years ago.
Wasn't Iceland originally settled by the Vikings?
Yes.
Yes.
So, well, they are considered Vikings, but not sort of the marauding, battle.
Right. Yeah.
Worn Vikings. They were primarily, honestly, farmers and other Norwegians that were unhappy with the conglomeration of power there under King Harold Fairhair or whatever his name was, and so they set off to sort of, to gain some freedom and settle this new land. So they were Vikings in the sense that it was the Viking era, and those, that's the terminology that's used, for peoples of that time in Scandinavia.
Well, I'm going to guess that led to you writing your first book, which is Double Blind, the Icelandic Manuscript Murders, correct?
That's a good guess. That's right. Bingo.
I have read that book too.
Oh, you have?
Yes,
oh, that's awesome.
It's
excellent.
Oh, thanks.
Let me see what Sarah has to say about it. Then I'll ask you about it here, Beth, and see what you have.
I'm going to show you the cover.
Great. Yeah, I love that.
Which I think.
Hold it up. Yeah, hold it up for just a second. There it is right there. Oh, that's cool. That? Yeah, I like it. It's got a little DNA strand in it.
The DNA helix there, and a little Icelandic.
I love that cover.
I know. I do
love
too.
that cover.
That's a great cover.
I did I can't say I did the graphics myself, but I did.
That's okay.
Love it. Anyway, so when I was in Iceland, and I've now been there 6 or 7 times, I realized that this country or this countryside is a great place to set a murder mystery, because most of the population lives in Reykjavik, the capital, and then you'll go like 20, 30 miles outside of the capital and you'll just come upon one like remote farmstead after another, and it's eerie in a very beautiful way, but you could see things happening that your neighbors would never know about. So I thought it would be a good setting. And in that book, a young boy does disappear. He is the twin of the now protagonist, who's a forensic geneticist, and so she sort of went into this genetic forensics initially hoping, because she's always wanted to solve crimes, whether it be the disappearance of her brother or any other crime that occurred there.
Very cool. When was that book released?
That was in 2020, 5 years ago. Exactly when COVID hit.
I'm about to say, right during COVID.
Yep.
March 2020. Just perfect.
That might have, besides traveling, that might have been really great, because everyone was sitting around trying to figure out what to do with their time. Reading books went crazy for 2 years because people had a lot of free time on their hands.
Yeah, that definitely was. That was the silver lining. Of course, I couldn't do in-person events, and there weren't as many online opportunities as there are now.
Sure.
However, people did have more time to read. That's right.
Yes, they did, for sure.
Yeah.
How does being a scientist and a writer work together? Does one? It seems like kind of two different brains. Mm-hmm. So do those brains work together, or do they work against each other?
Oh, that's a great question. I think they are of two different brains, the creative side and then the very analytical side. And I would, I spent my whole career as sort of an analytical person trying to solve really the mystery, or, the puzzle of these genetic diseases. And that's the area where there's some overlap, because I have always loved puzzles, solving a mystery, putting all the pieces together. And that applied to my scientific work, as well as, writing this murder mystery where every piece has to fit together as well.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's quite different to, I had written quite a number of scientific articles, very precise and analytical.
Sure.
And then you go to writing this, like,
footnotes and
creative writing.
Sure.
And so it was a challenge, which I really relished. And so it probably took me, I know that it took me a lot longer to write the first book. But once I had done that, I learned from doing that, honestly.
Sure.
As you do from any time you do something. And so this second book, I'm going to show you the cover of this one.
Sure. Great. That's my next question.
Oops. I'm jumping the gun here.
No. You're fine.
You're okay. You're okay.
Okay. It's called Ivory Bones, the Lewis Chessmen Murders.
Very cool.
These are the Lewis Chessmen.
Oh, okay, cool.
And you can see they're not your typical chess pieces. They're carved of walrus ivory in the 12th century.
Wow.
And they're very extremely valuable. They were not they were carved in the 12th century, either in Iceland or Norway. But of course, in my book, I have them carved in Iceland. But it's really unknown. There's a lot of evidence for either, depending on if you talk to a Norwegian or an Icelander.
They're really one of the coolest chess. It's really one of the coolest chess sets in the world, especially from that time.
Absolutely.
And probably one of the most unusual chess sets. Yeah.
Very unusual. And most of the pieces, which were found off of the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, in the 1800s, which is why they're called the Lewis Chessmen. Most of them are in the British Museum today, but there are several pieces still missing. One was found in some old lady's bureau in Edinburgh in 2019, and her son, after she passed away, her son's like going through all her belongings and found this this is what's called a berserker. I don't know if you can see this guy here or this guy over here.
Right.
That's what they used in lieu of rooks or castles. Yep. Okay. And you can see that's where we get the term berserk from. These what are called berserkers, which were Viking warriors. Yeah, you know all about this.
I'm well versed in Viking.
I guess so.
Lore, so yeah, and I've actually seen the Lewis Chessmen in the British Museum. So I'm familiar with them.
Pretty cool.
They are. So, they really are.
Yeah. So this. And they have been featured in like Agatha Christie novels and in Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone. Ron and Harry were playing with the replicas of the Lewis Chessmen. So, but that one that was found in Edinburgh sold at auction for more than $1 million. So that's how valuable.
Just one piece.
One piece.
Oh wow.
So there's still 3 or 4 pieces missing. And so that's sort of the basis of this murder mystery in my latest novel.
Cool.
But it also ties in this is a whole nother topic, really, but it all comes together, promise. The Barbary pirate raids, the Barbary pirates were from North Africa. Originally, they were mostly European, but they turned renegade and became Barbary pirates. And they raided the North Atlantic seas, like villages along the coastlines of Ireland and Iceland and so forth. So in 1627, there was a Barbary pirate raid on Iceland. and they took 400 villagers back to Algeria and sold them as slaves. So in my book, I have one of these captives having the Lewis Chessmen been inherited, throughout generations in her family, and she takes along with her most of the Lewis Chessmen, but she leaves 3 of them behind because she, during all the chaos, she didn't have time to collect them all. And so I have interspersed in this novel the diary of this woman that in which there are clues as to where those chess pieces are hidden. So, of course, there are some unscrupulous people trying to find them because they're quite valuable, and then others that are, trying to find them for national pride reasons. So,
when was that book published?
February of this year.
February this year.
A month, a month ago.
And where is it? Where is it available?
Well, you can get it at any independent bookstore. You just have to order it. Of course, it's on Amazon, like everything. It's also it's just about. It's also on something called bookshop.org, which is an you guys probably know. It's an organization that helps support independent booksellers.
Cool.
So I guess that any of those places.
I'm going to ask what your writing process is like, but you mentioned that it was different between the first book. You learned something from the first book to the second book. So I'd be really interested to know what you learned and what you did different the second time. Yeah,
there were a few things different. One thing was that in the first book, I love doing research. So I researched the heck out of Iceland and its history and everything. And I just found everything so fascinating that I felt I just had to put it in the book. But in retrospect, I think it slowed the pace of the book down. And so this more recent book, I didn't fall into that same trap. I put in the pertinent information that people would need to know and that, was of historical or present day interest, but I kept the pace going much quicker. So that was one difference. The second difference was that with the first book, I did not make an outline. I just started writing, and which is great for some authors. But in writing a murder mystery, all the pieces, as I mentioned, really have to fit together. And I would get to like chapter 13 and think of some, great idea or some red herring or something. But then maybe it didn't quite make sense, or I should have used some foreshadowing earlier in the novel.
Yeah.
So I toggled back and forth, which took a long time to to go back and forth. So with this second book, I did make an outline, just a 2 or 3 page outline, so that I would know what happens at every stage of the book. And it honestly made the writing easier to do, and also helped keep the pace really flowing.
I used to be a pantster. A couple of my books were done that way. And then the one that I'm working on right now, I said, you know what? I need to stop and go back to the way I used to do this, which was basically do a 2 to 3, page outline and then blow it out and then write the book. And I have found that by doing that, one, it helps me reduce the amount of that extraneous information that we like to throw in our books because we feel everybody needs to know this.
Yeah, exactly.
In my case right now, it's research on feudal Japan during the shogunate.
How interesting.
Yeah. So I've had to kind of rein in, what I'm putting in this book to keep it pertinent. And 2, it does make it so much easier to write. I started writing on this book a week ago. I'm already 8 chapters
Wow.
in, and I work a full-time job plus, do a whole bunch of
Wow.
other stuff. So yeah,
That's
it's
impressive.
that I didn't realize, I hate writing outlines. I hated writing outlines during high school and college. I
Yes.
still hate doing them, but I have found that it really, for my own mindset at this point and from my own writing, it's invaluable. It really is invaluable.
I feel exactly the same way. I mean, it's not like the fun part of writing.
It's
to sit
not.
down and
The fun part though is taking that outline that you've done and that you've blown out and turning it into the chapter and seeing how it all fits together.
Yeah,
That's
fleshing it
where
out.
that's where the excitement really, I realized I went from feeling like, oh, I don't really want to write this book. It's drudgery to, oh yeah, now I remember why I love to write. It helped
cuts down.
Rush.
It cuts down or completely cuts out sitting in front of a blank page and wondering what the heck am I going to write next?
Yes.
You know exactly what you're going to, you've got it laid all out in front of you. You know exactly what you need to write next. It cuts down on a lot of people who say that they have writer's block. I don't even know what that is. If I have an opportunity to sit and write, it just comes out of me, and having an outline helps a lot on that, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that says, it's you start with that outline, but then you can, expand it as much as you want, but you're still keeping on track.
I've heard
but I do admire those authors that can just sit down and, it's just not my style.
Some great writers absolutely do that, including Beth. Beth used to do pantsing and stuff. So I mean, it's a legitimate way. I certainly don't want to.
If I'm doing a short story, I'll pants it, because usually I know, exactly, point A to point B and everything in between. I'll pants a short story, but if I'm doing a full-length novel at this point, I've got to outline it.
Yeah.
Sarah, totally what do you got? What are you working on now?
Well, I am going to write the 3rd book in what I will consider then to be a trilogy, because it's sort of involves most of the same characters. However, this next book is going to be set in Greenland.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Not in Iceland. Eric the Red and his son Leif Erikson were the first settlers actually in Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Inuit came after them, like a couple hundred years later. But so there are these old Norse settlements there, and so there's this sort of link to Iceland, but it's not. I don't want to, I'm just sort of formulating the story now, but it's going to involve, Greenland's such a hot button topic these days.
Oh yeah,
I was about to say you're right in the right area, because there's a lot of attention on Greenland right now.
So there's a lot of research going on in this house at the moment. But so it will involve, mining of these rare earth elements and climate change, and the fact that the ice is melting, and then, these rare earth elements, like the mining really can affect the health of these local people.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of conflict there between,
That's
nations that want to get involved with it, and then the Inuit who are like, look, we've lived here for 1,000 years. It's our land. We know what to do with it. Don't come in and tell us what to do. And they just had their elections, by the way.
I heard that
on Tuesday. Yeah.
I'm sure that was, I mean, their attention is pretty high in the news right now. So I mean, and you've laid out a lot of the reasons why reading a book about that that place would be fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think you picked your place well.
Yeah. And now I will just have to be careful not to include every little bit of interesting fact I find. But
all right.
So that'll be a trilogy. And then I'll move on to something else.
Very cool.
I love it.
Well, Well, we've blown through this time together. I want to give you some time to tell everyone where they can find you online.
So I do have my own website, and I think you have it up there. It's my name.
Just spell it out for us, please.
Okay.
For people who are listening.
Okay. My first name is Sarah, but no H. So it's Sarawinokur.com. So that is my website. There's a lot of information on there about not only the books, but about Iceland and about history and the Lewis Chessmen and all sorts of things, lots of blogs. I'm also on Facebook, just Sara Winokur author, on Instagram as Sara_Winokur. You can contact me via my website, or just email me directly at hello@sarawinokur.com. So there are a few ways you can get in touch with me.
Awesome.
All right, Beth, you're next.
I am Beth A. Beth A. Freely. You can find me at the usual haunts, Twitter, Instagram as at BA Freely. You can find me on my website, Beth Anne, ANNE, Freely, FREELY.com. I also have a link tree that's BA Freely that's got all the other fun stuff on it. And if you're looking for editing or website services, you can find me at themusesfunhouse.com.
All right.
Wonderful.
I'm at writeworks.dirkhooper.com. My pen name is Asher Lake, so asherlake.net. You can find my erotic work for adults only there. I'm also on Dirk Hooper Plus on X and Dirk.Hooper on Facebook.
Great.
That's it, folks.
Great.
The time went so quick. Thank you for,
it was fun.
For being here today, Sarah.
Good luck with the tornadoes.
Thank you. We're just getting, that's just starting. That's just starting now.
Spring.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. That was fun.
We appreciate it, Sarah.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring us home. Thanks to our guest, Sara Winokur. For Beth A. Freely, I'm Dirk Hooper saying, dream hard.